With the release of the exclusive Winespring in clip for the New York Comic Con panel yesterday, there may have been a few things that you missed from the clip yesterday with your watches of it, and so that's what we're going to be discussing in this video. So here are 5 things you may have missed in the Wheel of Time Winespring in clip. Number 1. The men and women are sitting on separate tables in the Winespring Inn throughout the clip. Now actually, I would not be surprised if you guys didn't actually pick up on this on your watches of this clip, and I believe it's actually one of the more difficult things to pick up on, and there's a reason behind that, and that is throughout the 2 minutes that we have in this clip of the Winespring Inn, the camera is always continuously, changing shot and changing the way we are looking at the Winespring Inn and all its inhabitants, and so you see very quick looks at loads of men and women in a very quick and short space of time. And so it gives you that feeling that they're all congregating with one another while in the inn, but that's not the case. And I only happened to stumble upon this discovery when I was doing some editing for another video which has gone out on the channel. So if you haven't looked at that, there will be a card in the top left, top right corner, I'm not really sure, of that from yesterday. But yeah, so if I hadn't been editing that, I would not have seen the segregation that was happening within this clip. Now, there may not be a huge reason as to why the men and women are, not mixing with one another in the Winespring Inn, but there are a couple of ideas that I've got, running through my head, which may explain why that might possibly be the case. And these are the 2 ideas that I've got. And those 2 reasons are, it could be something to do with bow tying, or perhaps it's just that there's a few tables that are having some sort of meetings with the women's circle initiations, or just women's circle business in general, and then we would have the village council members on another table as well, and they've most likely already concluded the business, but then have elected to stay at these tables and just enjoy one another's company. But for bow tying, maybe things are a little bit more different. As we all know, they've got their kind of local gender roles, and so perhaps that's why they're sitting separately in the Winespring Inn on this particular scene. But maybe this is something they've changed around for the TV show, just to show how segregated and kind of almost backwards a living that they live away from the wider world. And so they've elected to have the men and women almost kind of congregate with the same sex instead of being in a mixed environment, at least in terms of the table. But this could just be potentially because of bow tying happening. Right, number 2. The fact Moiraine no longer conceals her identity as a Aes Sedai. Now, this right here is a huge departure from the books and the series as a whole. Now, before I go into any more details on this subject, spoiler warning, I am going to be spoiling stuff in the first 3 or 4 books, and probably most likely stuff that continues on as well. So, as we all know, in the books, Moiraine conceals her identity as being an Aes Sedai when she goes to inns and taverns and whatnot, these local establishments within the major cities, and for good reason, as we know that there are Forsaken that are in control of the cities. There's many an instance where if she hadn't of concealed her identity, they would have been found out a lot earlier. As we have Samael, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, he sent Darkhounds after, I think, Moiraine, Min, Perrin, and I think it was Loial as well. Now, the fact that the show has gone and done a kind of 360 in not including that and doing the exact opposite of having a literally being flamboyant with the fact, showing her Aes Sedai ring off to Egwene's mom, Marin, shows to me one of 2 things as a possibility with this now. And I don't know how I feel about that. Now, this might not come out to be true, but it's still something I think we have to consider, especially maybe for season 1. And that is, of course, there's going to be no Forsaken in this first season. Or maybe at least not brought into the foreground or into the main picture. And it's something we as the fans and have read the series might be able to, start to spot within the episodes, but newer casual fans who just start to, come on this journey with us fans as well of the series in learning and understanding what the Forsaken are and what their objective is. Now, excuse me, now, I don't know about you guys, but I think the fact we won't have any Forsaken potentially in the first season is quite sad, but is something I've kind of been, in a sense, getting used to, I suppose, and resigning myself to that fact. It seems, at least, I would say, or suggest for the first half, we're at least going to be having the big bad as Logain, and then perhaps maybe, I don't really know, who knows how it's going to pan out and all the implications of doing certain things early on in the series will have for later seasons. Maybe the Black Adger becomes a focal point in the latter half, or maybe there is a hidden big bad that we haven't seen yet that's going to take up the majority of the season, or at least the second half of it. But yeah, for one, I thought this was a big moment to have in this scene, and one that was worthy of being on a video like this. Number 3, and that's the accents. Now, I'm hoping this is something you didn't pick up upon, especially when you were watching the live stream for the first time. You would have seen the Winespring Inn trailer, then you would have started to hear all the actors and actresses' natural voice from wherever they are born and raised in the world. And it was something that I found was really intriguing, and something I thought was a testament to how involved and serious they're taking each of their roles in the show, that they've gone away, had to think about how they wanted to change their accents and how they wanted to voice these characters, and just the general nuances they would have to bring out in the way they would speak and conduct certain scenes and moments. And it's very evident in the clip. So for example, I'm going to play side by side each of the actors and actresses TV voice and then their natural voice, and you will see just how drastic a difference they are.
How did the ceremony go today?
Episode 1 right to the end, I just was never ceased to amazed by how epic the sets were.
Don't know, actually. We haven't talked yet.
Yeah, that's the Haramarked blade. The Haramarked blade is...
Name yourself, stranger.
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Marcus was saying, like the level of artistry on this production is like nothing I've ever experienced before.
Lan Mondragoran. This is Moiraine.
I felt very similar to Rosamund. I think her and we initially had a FaceTime. Geez, it must have been 2 years ago.
We'll need stables for our horses and a room for the night. 2 beds and fresh linen, that's all we need.
I know that traditionally any guide character in a fantasy world is usually a man, and it was very intriguing to have this mysterious stranger who comes to town.
And that was something that really struck a chord with me that I loved. And it's the same for all of them. They've gone away, they've done their research, they've spoken and thought about how they want to approach the accents, and they've done that. And I, for one, think that was something you may not have heard of. And I think that shows just how much they've put into the roles. Number 4. A few shots have re-emerged from that first teaser trailer in this Winespring Inn clip. Now, this may or may not have been something that you noticed, but for those of you that didn't, the shots that are in question are these. So the first one is the boots walking into what we now know to be the Winespring Inn. And then secondly, Moiraine's uncovering of her face as well now belongs in the Winespring Inn clip as well. Now, you know, just for the sense of understanding and getting a better feel of what was shown in that first teaser trailer, we now have that with the arrival of this clip. I just think, you know, when you've got very short and quick clips that don't necessarily make sense within that, you know, teaser trailer that was released, it's always nice to be able to get an understanding of their place in the so-called wider world in terms of the show and what episodes they're in and the scenes. And we've gotten that from, you know, this Winespring clip. We now know those boots belong to Lan, which I know there's a boot thing going on, so a lot of you will be happy with that. And then that Moiraine uncovering of her cowl, I suppose is the right word, could have been potentially from another scene. I thought it might have been her coming in out of the rain in the White Tower, possibly. But as I've said, we now know that's from the Winespring clip as well. And finally, number 5, and that is some characters you may not have seen or recognized within this 2-minute clip. Now, a lot goes on within this scene in terms of how the camera is constantly, you know, changing focus on the people and characters within the shots, and there's a lot of time spent with, you know, with Rand and Perrin, and then we get the big introduction of Lan and Moiraine. But so you may have missed a few, you know, characters that are present here, but obviously have no dialogue, and they're kind of a blink and you'll miss it moment over the course of the 2 minutes. So here are those characters. So for starters, you probably saw this, but in case you didn't, Tam Alfor is in these shots. He appears maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times throughout the 2 minutes. But yeah, it's a very fleeting moments within this 2 minutes of seeing him. Other honourable mentions are Sen Bui. He is in there as well, very, very briefly, but it's very apparent, as you can see on this still image that I've taken from the clip. And then finally, we also have who Matt is seen with, and that is Danya. But yeah, so I thought, just to round it up, it's not a huge, big thing to, you know, talk about. But yeah, those are a few characters you may have missed. Perhaps there's some I have missed, and maybe that's something you guys can comment down below and let me know if I've missed them. Well guys, yep, that is the video. I hope you've enjoyed it and you've made it all the way through to the end. If you've enjoyed the video, please leave a like down below. And if you're new around here, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, as I have loads more videos upcoming throughout this next week. I will be breaking down, if you haven't already seen, the first official release from the Wheel of Time soundtrack a little bit later in the week. I'll be going over who the composer is, who the singer was on the track as well. And also we'll be going over as well the casting announcements that came along with the New York Comic Con panel as well. So I'll see you guys in the week.